Wednesday, May 18th, 4:30, 5:30 Eastern. We're going to go over the new workspaces and BloodHound templates. What I've done is create several different workspaces for each market. All right, so when you open it up, they're each named, TTP CL or GC or ES or YM or FDAX, ZB, and NG, day trading 18th of May. Okay, because I made some changes today. And I changed the BloodHound templates back to being a little bit stricter than I had them today. So what will you can delete the old workspaces or whatever you want, but during the room I'm going to use the one that I'm showing you here and the other MultiMarket workspaces. So until we get Ninja 8, we can't have each one of these markets, every single one of the workspaces open at the same time. It just doesn't work with Ninja 7. With Ninja 8, I think it'll be fine, but for right now, what I'm going to do is set up a VMware, a virtual machine, and I'll do a video teaching you guys how to do that. I think the easiest one to work with is something called VirtualBox by Oracle, and that way you can run 2 instances of NinjaTrader, and that way you can use more of your CPU and memory for the actual program Ninja. But I'll do a separate session on setting that up. But there should be 8 charts for each workspace. So the largest one that I have in this day trading workspace is a 60-minute, and then one very large tick chart. And it's going to be different for each market, but for the crude oil, I just have it set to 10,000. Okay. And you can see we have this nice rolling top here. Looks like really like a wedge. It is a wedge. An ending diagonal, as it were. And I know some of you got the short but didn't manage to hold it, that lower high there. I actually missed it. Somebody called me for a support call. Couldn't get the Divergences Pro working, so I missed it. But anyhow, I think it's broken this trend line now. No, it hasn't quite broken that trend line. So we're at it right now. So I think if we can get a bounce back up tonight, I have a feeling it's going to gap down tomorrow, but if we could get a bounce back up and then open back in this general vicinity, let's see where the most volume is. It'd be great to come all the way back, maybe a 50% retracement. I doubt that's going to happen, but if it does do that and we get a nice ABC or even a 5-wave overlapping set of waves back up near 49, then we may have a beautiful short setup first thing in the morning, which is what I'm hoping for. And you can see this is a nice normal distribution. So before we get up into here, I would assume that 4860 is going to be resistance. But you will likely see some kind of a bounce off of this trend line here. I just doubt it's going to go very far. This first little overlap right here will probably give you some resistance if we make it up that high. All right, so anyhow, there are 8 charts to each workspace, so I've eliminated some. I mean, it's still, there's still quite a bit of work to do as far as drawing in the areas, but now instead of multiple tick charts and the really fast one and a 1-minute chart, I've eliminated the 1 minute. We're just using a 2-minute now as the smallest chart. eliminated the 3 minute, essentially combined the 1 and the 3 into a 2 minute. So now we have a 2, a 5, 20 ETH chart, which is the full 24-hour session, and then a 15-minute RTH chart. And that is the day session only. So that's 9 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern for Crude. For me, it's 8 to 1:30 p.m. Central Time for Crude. And then for the ES, 8:30 to 3:15. The only one that didn't have a regular trading hours session was the FDAX. The FDAX, has kind of a strange time period. It opens at 1:30 in the morning. Of course, it's German. Opens at 1:30 in the morning, my time, and then closes at 3:15, I think, my time. So I turned that into a 180-minute chart. Let me just go ahead and open that one so you can see the difference. It's really the only one that has much of a difference. And then I'll show you the BloodHound Templates and the MultiMarket Workspaces. So any questions while this is opening? And I am using both true volume and the relative volume for the 2 minute. And I've added in a MACD. Some people, I just was messing around with it because it is a longer period oscillator. You get a 12 and a 26 period moving average, whereas the RSI is just a 14 period moving average. Or period, anyway. I don't know about if you want to call it a moving average. RSI is built a little differently, obviously, than the MACD is, but you can find larger divergences with the MACD on the 2 minute chart. So I kept that on there. And like I was saying, for the FDAX, instead of that 15-minute RTH chart, since there's no real RTH session, you just have, the session, normal session, and that's it. I changed that 15-minute RTH for the FDAX to a 180-minute chart. Okay, so there's still 8 charts. And then the largest tick chart for the FDAX is a 2500. And you can see there are quite a few gaps within the FDAX because it is closed for a much longer period than most other markets are closed. And it's closed for a full 8 hours, I think, just about. So for the BloodHound template, let me open one that's spread out, and then you can see the way that I kind of spread it out. And you can choose to do yours that way, or depending on how many monitors that you have. Let's see, I'll use this one. You can spread it out however you want. And if you don't want this many charts, that's fine. You'll just have to adjust the BloodHound template accordingly. Okay, and if you have specific chart templates now, go ahead and rename them something else rather than, TTP, whatever. Save them as my 20-minute gray candles, or however you want to call it. So if you have your own chart templates made, go ahead and save them with a different prefix or some other name. I would be doing construction when I do one of these meetings. So anyway, I have the 2-minute on a chart all by itself over here. Okay, and this was the short right there. The requirements are volume divergence from either the 5-minute or the 2-minute. So a little bit, larger signals only. We're not looking for the fast, 6, 7, 8 signals per day with the faster tick charts and all of that. I've eliminated all of that. You can still use that template if you want, but you would have to use it with that workspace. One of the things that I've added in, before I go over the rules, one of the things that I've added in to the reader is the ability to choose charts that are only from the current workspace or from any workspace. So your old templates are going to automatically be set to all charts. If you want to, keep using those other templates with the other workspace, you will probably want to go in and open up the reader. You can see which solvers within that template have the reader built into it, because it's going to say, it's going to list the name of the chart within the solver. See, we've got 5-minute. You can see it written right there. We've got the 2-minute, the 576 tick, the 5-minute, the 2304 tick, the 15-minute RTH chart, the regular trading hours, the 20-minute, and the 60-minute. If you want to keep using those other templates, then you'll want to go in and change this to read the charts from the current workspace. If you open them up after you run the update, they will likely be set to all charts. So when it's set to current workspace and you do the drop down to select the chart, you'll only see the charts from this workspace. 6E4500 tick. What is going on there? Hang on a second here. One, two, three, four, five, six. Oh, okay. Yeah, I built a test chart. All right, I closed that one. Okay, so when I go back in here and it's set to read only from the current workspace, you'll see that only those charts are available. So I've got several workspaces open right now, but you can only see the charts available that are within this workspace. If I change this to all charts, then it's going to show you all charts. You got the FDAX and then the other crude oil charts that are open. Okay, so you'll want to go in and make sure you select the current workspace to read the charts only from the current workspace. So we are requiring 3 areas in agreement. All right, so there has to be a bar touching one of the areas from these 3 different sets of markets. So we have the slower time frames here. So we have to have the bar touching an area from one of these 3 charts together with a bar touching an area from one of these 2 charts. We call these the medium time frames, the larger tick chart and the 5-minute chart. And then one of the areas from one of these 2 charts, the 2-minute or the 576. Okay, when I get the reader refined a little bit more and we can look at the slope of the channel and all of that, then we'll be able to refine this a bit more. Okay, but for now, we're going to use one of each of these groups of charts. So 3 areas from 3 different charts at the same time, together with volume divergence from either the 2-minute or the 5-minute, and the 2-minute, which is the chart that we have Bloodhound loaded on. Okay. And the other update for the Divergences Pro, there was a couple of minor bugs, just appearance type stuff. And now when you scroll back, I don't want to do it on this chart because it'll take 20 seconds to load. Let's do it on this chart here. So when you scroll back, you see that we've added in, and you've already seen this from the last update, but we've added in what we've named limited view. I forgot to fill this out, the details of it. Essentially what the limited view does is it calculates only the number of bars visible on the chart. So you don't have to calculate the Divergences Pro all the way back to the beginning of the chart. So it actually saves, can't remember, it was something like 30% faster or something like that. So when you scroll back, previously with a previous update, you would scroll back and then refresh the chart, and only this chunk of data will have calculated the Divergences Pro, and then you would scroll right and you wouldn't see any new calculations. Okay, so we changed that so that when you scroll back, you'll calculate now from here all the way to the far right edge so that you can do your bar by bar analysis. If you're doing manual backtesting or whatnot, you'll see that the divergence indicator will continue its calculations all the way to the far right edge. Okay. All right, so that's really the only other main thing as far as updates to the software. The major updates are for the workspaces and the BloodHound templates. So the other thing that we're going to be doing now is monitoring a larger number of markets, but only doing one chart per market, only the 240-minute chart. I also included a 20-minute, so I'm calling this the MultiMarket Workspace. All right, there's also one for a 20-minute and one for a 5-minute. So you can you could run all 3 of those, but it's going to bog down Ninja 7. What I'm going to do is just run the 240-minute, and I think we have, I think it's 14 markets. You can eliminate as many as you want. I'm going to keep all 14. I'm just going to update them probably once every 2 hours, so a couple of times a day. And then when one of the major areas are met on any one of those charts, then we'll bring up either the workspace for that chart or just, right away open up a 5-minute chart and kind of corroborate the areas such that we have at least a couple of different areas coming together. So for instance, we had this area come together. We've overthrown it, or thrown under, whatever you want to call it, here on natural gas today. So we took out this low, and then we came down to this channel line right here. Let me delete. Well, no, this is what gave us the other median line here. So we had 2 areas coming together, actually 3 if you count this warning line of the trend channel. But we overthrew it so much that I literally got ticked out to the tick right there at 95. That's where my stop was, at 95. I entered at 2000 or 2.004, and I got stopped out at 1.995. So it just barely ticked me out. But this is the kind of thing that we're going to wait for. So we're only going to wait for major areas to come together. So it's not like we're going to be flipping through these charts all day long like I was doing a while back. I'll go through them initially in the morning, and I'll have my alert window open. We'll do all this together tomorrow, but I'll have my alert window open, and when I see one of the alerts go off for one of these 240-minute charts, which will happen before we actually get to the area when we're within, 5% of the ATR. So when we're approaching the area, then I'll get the alert, and then we can come back and check it out and see if it's an area that we want to trade. If it is, then we'll open up a 5-minute chart, maybe a 30-minute chart, and kind of corroborate the areas and fine-tune the entry with nothing smaller than a 5-minute chart. Okay, so we'll bring back the swing trading, but it's not something that's going to kind of overtake our analysis of crude and or the ES. I really don't want to bring back the ES simply because of the weight of the data. It locks up my Ninja, and it's just a pain. But I think if I can run it on the VMware, for the rest of the time that we are stuck with Ninja 7, which hopefully won't be but for another month and a half or so. But for the remainder of that time, I think I can get by with potentially running it on a virtual machine and or this other computer that Clint's on here in the office. So we'll look into that more this evening and tomorrow. But nonetheless, we will run this larger workspace with the larger time frames with all of the markets. So you'll have 3, and I've just named it multi-market. It'll say TTP instead of my, but it'll be multi-market 240-minute, and it'll be the 18th of May. You'll have one for the 240, one for the 20 minutes, and then one for the 5-minute charts. You could run only those 3 charts, those 3 workspaces if you wanted to, but I'm not including the BloodHound templates for those just yet, not until I can beef up that toolbar, which should be done hopefully within the next 10 days or so. And then preferably waiting for everything to get ported over to Ninja 8. Then we could, watch as many markets and as many workspaces as we want, have everything completely semi-automated. And then, the next step obviously is getting that market analyzer rebuilt. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. And supposedly I'll have the installer within half an hour or so. Okay, but all the files are done and sitting there waiting. He's just busy right now apparently. So once they're up, I'll send out an email that everything's up on the website, but you'll definitely have it before this evening too late so that you can have everything installed and opened up and ready to go for tomorrow. And as far as opening anything up, let's just move back over here and I'll open one just to get you kind of familiarized with what's going to happen. So let's say we want to open up the 20-minute charts. So it'll be TTP multi-market 20-minute. Not the 15th, but the 18th of May. I built individual templates, BloodHound templates and workspaces for 6 of those 14 markets. It takes just a ridiculous amount of time to build each one of those out. So I did 6. If you wanted to build out a different one, I'll make a video on how to do that. It's nothing difficult at all. All you do is change the instrument here. And once you've done that for all of the charts, then you'll rename the BloodHound template and change the reader over to the correct instrument. It's not really that difficult, but if you're not familiar with Bloodhound, I guess it is, new to you. So I guess I'll make, a 5-minute video showing you how to do that. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I left out the ES here because I don't like the way it does the data in Ninja. And it seems to bog me down when I run the ES. So if you want to build that, all you have to do is go to File, New, Chart, load the ES, set it to 240 minute, set the days to 200, and then use the 240 minute TTP 240 minute gray candles chart template and click OK. And there you go. And that's it. So it looks like it shot straight down and then gave you a big bounce right back up the minute it made a double bottom there. It did make a double bottom and not a lower low. So chances are it's going to break that. Those double bottoms will fail 80% of the time, something like that. So chances are we'll come down through that. At any rate, that's all you have to do. If you want to build any one of these charts for any other instrument, you just use the chart template. There are several new chart templates. There's one for each of the tick charts for each market. There's one for each of the 2-minute charts for each market, which will load Bloodhound and the Bloodhound template. If you don't own Bloodhound or the Bloodhound template, you may get an error show up in your log, but it's not any kind of error that's going to hurt anything. It's just telling you that you don't have that template or you don't have Bloodhound. Okay, and then you just resave the workspace, and then the next time you open it, you won't see that error again. So it's not a big deal if you see that it's trying to load Bloodhound and you don't have Bloodhound, or it's trying to load a template that you don't have. It's nothing to worry about. It's just telling you you don't have it. You resave the workspace, and then the next time you open it, you don't get that error again. Okay, that's it. So yeah, if you wanted the 20-minute chart, obviously you would set this to, I think I use 70 days for the 20-minute. Yeah, I use 70 or 80. No, I use 80. And then you just right-click on it, go to Templates, Load, and then load that 20-minute template. So again, if you build the chart and you want to apply the template, you simply right-click on the chart. You go to the bottom where it says Templates, and then Load, and then select the appropriate chart template, which would be the 20-minute, which is right here. Yeah, so the minute we took out that low, it came right back. So something must have $820, $840. So this is the open. Nice little ABC. Pretty sharp and steep ABC to the 78.6, the 61.8 retracement. Yeah, so this is probably the beginning of the next leg down potentially. Or maybe this is just one big correction where it's going to come back even deeper this time, and then come on. Anyway, any questions on any of the templates or workspaces? Which futures currency? I did the 6A, the 6B, and the 6E. The Aussie, the pound, and the euro. I don't think that's necessary, Gary. The chart template is just the name of the chart. So the chart template for the 20-minute is the 20-minute chart template. So it would be redundant. The name of the template is just going to be TTP 20-minute. You know what I mean? I don't need to put in here also TTP 20-minute gray candles. Then we'd have a name that came all the way out to here. It just seems redundant to me. Each template is specific to each chart, so it's not like we use the same template for different charts. Will the new templates get mixed up with the old templates? No. If you have if one of the old templates, I mean, it's going to copy and replace them. So if you have right now, if you saved over my chart templates that I've named, if you've saved over them with your own indicators, anytime you do that, you want to rename it. If you're making your own chart templates, you just want to rename it is all. So, I mean, I can't do specific cases for different people because then when people run the installer, you know what I mean? Basically, the installer is for getting all of the files all at one time so that people don't have to, a lot of the guys that end up purchasing don't know how to move files around or don't know which files go in which folders and stuff like that. So it's all designed to make it easier. I didn't add the defaults into this one, Ed. So it's not going to save over your defaults for the chart drawing objects. I haven't added that into here. So if you have defaults for your drawing objects, none of that's going to change. Right click on chart, choose properties, change background color. You want to change the color of the background? Yeah, you just go to properties. You have to do it twice. You have to refresh the chart twice. So if I change this to black, initially it'll just change the right margin to black. Well, it depends. Let's see. Okay, it did it all at once that time. Sometimes it'll just do the right margin. Then you click F5 and reload it, and it'll update. That black hurts my eyes for some reason. Some people like it, but it hurts my eyes. It strains them or something. Yeah, you may have to hit F5 once or twice. And then just kind of weird with their XML files. Anything, workspaces, templates, stuff like that. Sometimes you can lose them all. Sometimes they resave. Like I sent myself some workspaces and it didn't include Bloodhound in the workspace. So somehow Ninja can corrupt your workspaces. It can corrupt your chart templates. So if anything happens, you can either rerun the installer or simply, add Bloodhound to that 2-minute chart. So if for some reason you open up your workspace, any of the day trading workspaces, and Bloodhound is not, it's going to be on the 5-minute. We have the relative volume on the 5-minute. This is version 8 now. It's using the RSI. And there's one other thing, all right? Pay attention here for a moment, please. With this volume divergence template, I don't know what the deal is, but when I'm using the RSI, well, let me show you what happens. It's something with the way that the bars are numbered. Ninja doesn't number the bars correctly, okay? This may be, it starts from the left with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to, let's say this is bar 2078. It might name this bar 2078 and then name this bar 2081. And then it might come back and name this next bar 2081. And then this one 2085, and then this one 2084. So it does all kinds of weird stuff with the way that it numbers the bars. And Bloodhound doesn't like that. They had to add in code to deal with that. And then the divergence indicator doesn't like that. So we had to add in code to deal with that as well. Well, Bloodhound doesn't recognize the code that we added. I don't need to explain all that. Suffice it to say that when it's running the divergence indicator in Bloodhound, it, for some reason, has to run twice. It has to number the bars the way Bloodhound does it, and then run it again and number the bars the way that the divergence indicator does it. So, and that's only when the z-score is off. So watch what happens when I do this. You don't really need, you see what happened? You get this thing about the index being out of range. I know I'm going to get some emails about this, but all you have to do when that happens, I'm going to have to add this into the instructions, but you'll have to do this every time you restart Ninja. Go to the 5-minute chart that Bloodhound is on. Put it on the with Divergence Pro. You don't have to open it up and get into the, all that. All you have to do, you have the setup, and then you have with Divergence Pro. All right, you won't get that error necessarily unless you open up the Bloodhound template. But all you have to do is just hit F5 again, and then it'll recalculate and everything will work fine. So for some reason, it throws that error. Right, and the fact is there aren't any. Let's scroll back and see if there are any examples with, yeah, see, here you had volume divergence. This is a beautiful volume divergence right here, actually. It's gorgeous. With divergence in the RSI. Now it's not showing up as completed because when you get to this bar, the RSI is a little bit lower on that next bar. So it didn't actually trigger, but you did get the setup with the divergence on this previous bar. So I know I'm starting to lose some of you right now. I can feel it. But if you'll go to the 5-minute chart, now if you're not worried about, okay, let me explain it like this. It's going to automatically load the setup chart template within this Bloodhound template. You go to the logic board, there are 2 options for the volume divergence. All right, the setup is showing you every single potential case of volume divergence, every single potential case of volume divergence, not requiring that there actually be momentum divergence. All right, you can see when it's making a turn or when it's in a range-bound situation, these are really awesome signals. If you're in a super strong trend, it's going to fly right through these. Okay, but if you're at an area and you're making a turn, these are going to be right on the money pretty consistently. So if you're not worried about only seeing those with true divergence in the RSI, then you'll never have to change it to with Div Pro up top here. It's automatically going to come set to the setup. And then you'll never have to refresh the chart. You'll never see that error. Everything will be fine. But if you want to only show those volume divergence signals with RSI, bullish or bearish divergence, then you'll have to change this to with Divergences Pro, and then you'll have to refresh the chart to avoid that error. Okay. Can the volume clusters show up in Bloodhound? No, not yet. I haven't exposed those. What we're going to do is we're going to build a separate indicator that does just the volume clusters of each bar. you can access the volume clusters of profiles, right? I can access that 4886, that 4876, but I can't yet access these individual clusters for each bar. All right. I could expose those, within this volume profile, but we're going to build a separate indicator that'll do that. And then we'll add in the option for the limited view, like we did for the Divergences Pro, so that it doesn't have to calculate all the way back the full length of the chart. So we'll add in this limited view such that it only calculates for the visible range that you're looking at, okay? So that, yeah, that'll be coming. I imagine we'll probably crank that out while he's here. He's going to be here on the 24th for about 10 days. So we'll probably do that while he's here and finish up the toolbar and all of that while he's here. So yeah, I'm going to do a couple of different things with that. We're going to do the value area high and low of the bar, the low volume node of the bar, and the point of control. And then also look at time periods. So like if you're looking at a tick chart, you could divide it up into time periods. I don't know how well that's going to work on a tick chart though, because you don't have an absolute beginning and end. We'll probably be able to make it work. I have to think about the algo that we'll have to make to be able to do that. Anyway, we'll make something work with that. If I'm going to do a standalone indicator, it's going to have to be awesome. You know what I mean? I can't just do something stupid and easy. It's going to have to be interesting and useful. So yeah, that'll be coming. But yeah, that's really the only thing with the Divergences Pro. I eliminated the Divergences Pro because of that thing that we're seeing, which will be corrected hopefully within the next week or so. And then we'll add it back into the other templates. If not, then we're going to build a standalone divergence indicator that has, let's say, 10 different indicators built into it. Because the main issue with it, because it's, it's such a different type of programming, because you're searching within the chart to find different plots that are on the chart. It's really, this is the most complex part of it, is this right here, choosing the oscillator component. It's that section that's causing the issue, because when you're doing indicator on indicator, well, I mean, you would expect that the bars would be numbered correctly, right? But it's not so. I don't know why, but they can't seem to number the bars correctly. They fixed that in Ninja 8. We've verified that it is all fixed in Ninja 8, but for some reason, they just can't seem to number the bars correctly. So the stuff that you have to do to make up for that causes issues. And that's something we have to deal with in the next version. We thought it was all fine, but something about turning the z-score off makes it so that you have to calculate it twice. It's very bizarre stuff, but anyway, you don't have to worry about that except for on this one template. So if you do switch to the Divergence Pro logic template from the setup, you switch to Divergence Pro, you just want to be sure and refresh that chart one time. That's all you got to do, okay? So that's that. Yeah, Ninja is kind of weird. But supposedly, they fixed a lot of that stuff. What else? I think that's really about it, unless you guys have some questions. Let me scroll back a little bit. If you have another, if you another indicator that paints the background, it might take 2 goes. Yeah, it's the way that it draws, the way that it paints the background, stuff like that is, it just has a weird drawing system. But we've completely bypassed all that in the next toolbar. So we have a really, really robust and just a really good drawing system. So a lot less room for errors, a lot less room for bugs, and we'll be able to do literally anything that you guys ask for or could think of. Yeah, that's what this is all about, Ray. It's all about the new installer and the new workspaces. So the installer should be ready within an hour, he said, and I'll send out the email when it's up. But he's got everything. He just has to make it. He's apparently doing a webinar right now too. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to finish up here. And then probably by the time I get home, he'll have the installer done. And we'll get that out so that we're all on the same page tomorrow. And then we'll get this recording up tonight so that you can watch it for tomorrow or tonight while you're doing the installation and everything. It's really nothing to it. You just run the installer, open the workspaces, and I'll put, you know, the little minimal amount of directions that you need there on the website. No, we're doing the toolbar 3.0 right now. So when that's done, yeah, then the relative volume. So the toolbar should be done within 10 days. To do the things that I want to do, we had to do our own drawing system. So that's what's happening now. He's about halfway there. And then I won't have to worry about anything new with the toolbar for a while until we want, you know, different types of functionality, which can come after everything's moved over to Ninja 8. We have to delete some files before loading new installer. You may want to go ahead and delete. No, you won't have to because I've added the new. No, you won't have to delete anything. We'll send out a link to the recording. And Randy, I take it you're a total package member. The link to the BloodHound Beta is on the total package members area. So that's the beta that you're supposed to be running, whatever that's linked to. So download it from the link in the total package members area. And that's the one you got. And you should be good to go. Let me bring that up. Quiet keyboard, yeah, right. This is the Bloodhound you want right here. BloodHound Beta. any minute. Okay, so that's the Bloodhound Beta right there. Zach says that that's impossible, that the version number be higher. I don't know how that would be possible. The only way that you would deal with that would be to uninstall the Blackbird, probably because your version has Blackbird. So he didn't want me passing out Blackbird for some reason. So he wanted me to tell everyone to use this version of Bloodhound. So this is the one we are supposed to be using, according to Zach at Shark Indicators. I don't know why, but he just didn't want me passing out Blackbird to too many people. I would think the more the merrier to do the testing, but I guess it becomes a support nightmare. Which, it's understandable. He really only wanted advanced users of Bloodhound to be testing Blackbird and not everybody. So when people had errors or problems with Blackbird and, weren't already familiar with it and then writing in a lot, I guess it was becoming problematic. So he would prefer that everyone use this one. Did this one yesterday. Okay. All right, you guys. Yeah, we're at the bottom of that channel. That's right. And we have already bounced up to the first spot. So this is all red all the way down. So it would be awesome to get a 50. But we've definitely got the trend line hit right here. So to come all the way back to that one, I don't know, but maybe to this one. Or this one. Probably between these two. I would say at least two, deep within this little correction here. That would be the first place I would look to get short. Of course, we don't know if this is going to be a complete reversal back up, but it's only one wave down. So I would imagine we would get at least three, two down, one back up. So since this is just one big wave down, depending on how deep we're going to come back. And that's another thing. If it does come back really deep, then I would think the odds are better for just another wave just below this low, and then this being major support and going up and making a new high after that. I think if we just make a slightly, just a shallow retracement below 61.8 or below 50, then we'll likely come on down pretty hard. At any rate, any other questions? Let's see. Okay, Randy, try uninstalling it and then downloading that Bloodhound Beta. Scroll up on licenses. Scroll up. Not sure what you mean. Scroll up. What do you want me to do? Licenses needed for VMware. No. No, we're not gonna. There's no way that I'm gonna be able to control that. When you buy it, you get 2 licenses. If you want more, then you'll have to buy more, because I can't. There's no way of controlling that or verifying any of that. You know. I've already busted a few people. You know, one's IP'd in Croatia, another one's IP'd in Russia. Do I need separate licenses for anything? Windows or anything? No. Oh, you mean for the VMware? Yeah. You have to have Windows and Bloodhound, but it just depends on, you know, what you're willing to do. You don't have to do that. The only reason I was doing that was so that I could monitor more markets and do the webinar software and all the Bloodhound stuff that I'm doing, all the testing. You know what I mean? So, all right, you guys, I'm going to ask him how far along we are, and then once I get it, then I'll send it out. I'll put it immediately up on the website. We'll render this video and put it up now. Well, it takes a couple hours to render, but I'll let you know when it's ready. All right. All right, you guys, thanks. Talk to you tomorrow, and I'll send out the email once ready. This is a possibility here. Let me show you this real quick, because this is the last thing I'll show you, then I'm gone. You have this potential kiss goodbye here. So this would be a really great case of that. Now, the other option would be to use this low. So come back to within this area, which would then bring us into this overlap here. You're looking at a 50% retracement at 49. So that would be ideal. 94 to 49 even. So mind that potential kiss goodbye there. Because if that's going to be the real deal, then you're going to get a big drop in crude, which I think is happening. This is why I was saying that, you know, something was up when they did this, when it jerked back and forth right there before the close. I thought some news came out or something. I don't know, but that was a signal to something going on. They did actually take it up and break it, which messed me up today. But that was the short. Anyway, all right, talk to you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.